The guy in custody, Richard Allen, is he the only person being looked at in this investigation?
Right now, he's the one that's been that's now facing murder charges. So, again, we are not going to stop looking at other people until this is completely done and we have nothing left to do.
One of the things that I've heard is why not release the cause of death? Not because people are morbidly curious, but if they knew they were looking for somebody that was either a stab or a gunshot, maybe they know somebody that sold the gun, sold the knife. Maybe they could find the weapon somewhere. What's the rationale for not releasing the official cause of death?
Because the individual or individuals that did it, only they know what they did.
And I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. Has that slowed down the investigation? Because I think the public, with all of their tips, has been a big help in this. Wouldn't it make sense to have the public looking for the possible weapon?
I don't think at this point it would. Functionally, I understand the question, Hammer. I really do understand it. And we're going to look back on this and probably realize, dang, I wish we'd have done A, B, and C rather than B and E. We can't talk about what we think. And I've said this many times before. You should expect us to only talk about what we know. And that even changes more so once there's a probable cause affidavit signed by a judge for the arrest of an individual. Not just Richard Allen, but in any criminal case, especially a complex criminal case. This case is unlike any that I've seen in almost a 40-year career. So there are so many different tentacles to this. It's very complex.
The other name that's involved in this whole story is Keegan Klein. Now, he has not been charged with anything in regards to the murders of these beautiful young ladies in Delphi. We know that he had some sort of communication with one of the ladies the day before they passed away. Has he been speaking to police? Has he been given some sort of plea deal to help police?
We'll continue to work on Keegan Klein.
Okay, everybody. So let me know that you can hear me okay, and welcome back to Watch the Obsession live stream and chat tonight, talking about the Delphi case and excuse me, the recent end of the trial of Richard Allen. We were on verdict watch for several days. The jury took the case to deliberate on Thursday. It is now today, Monday, November 11th, Veterans Day in the United States. And thank you to all of the brave veterans who have served for our country. I appreciate that. We all appreciate that. And the verdict, to the surprise of many who I have talked to, came back today to be finding Richard Allen guilty on all counts. Richard Allen guilty on all counts for a number of reasons. Most importantly, the way the trial rolled out, the case that was presented by the prosecution, the evidence and the testimonies of the witnesses that were presented at trial. Many people, including all of the legal aficionados who have been commenting on this case on television and YouTube, thought that the jury was going to come back with a verdict of either not guilty or a hung jury, like I told you guys I was pretty sure was what was going to be happening after a verdict was not returned after a few days. So, the big question is Richard Allen truly guilty? And if he is not, what does that mean for the state of justice in our country and in our society? So tonight we're going to talk about it. Let me just say hello to those of you who are there. Sherry, thank you so much for the super chat. You are such a doll. Thank you for your continued support of me and this channel and for being a wonderful moderator. Keschik and I were just talking about how thrilled we are that we added you to the moderating team. You are just totally amazing. So thank you, dear. And welcome to, let's see, who else we have here? Jody, welcome and thank you for everything you do. Edward Schwenk, same to you. Honeybon, my girl, same to you. Sandra Voss, hi, how are you doing? Welcome, my friend. Hi, Liz, how are you doing? Welcome, the country life of Chicken Lady. Welcome. Let's see. Let me keep scrolling down. Moderators in full effect. Sarcasm FF came over from moderating on the Tilted Lawyer channel. He's going to be joining us at some point tonight. I was on his channel a couple hours ago discussing this case, of course, and I'm going to tell you what he thinks, or he can tell you what he thinks when he gets here, but I'm going to tell you what he thinks are 5 major appellate issues that the defense has after, seeing how this case panned out, right? And Crime and Crochet, always great to see you, my friend. Welcome. How are you doing? And let's see. I don't want to miss anyone, so I'm trying to scroll tenuously. What's the obsession? Welcome. Oh, hi. Well, thank you. Pepper, welcome. How are you doing, my friend? Great to see you as always. Thank you for everything that you do. And whoever's texting me, Omar is texting me. Let's see what Omar says. Okay, send me a link. I'll be ready. Oh, the link is in your email. Do you need me to send it again? Question mark. I replied to the link that you sent me earlier. Here, let me send that to him again really quick. Wait, let me just get this ready. I gotta get my Gmail up. Speaking of Omar, here he is. So the channel again is The Tilted Lawyer. The mods can please pick up the link to that channel so we can drop it in the chat. And I still have to put in the description. I forgot to. And I think our friend Justice A through Z, who is also a YouTube creator, is going to join us. Jay from Guilty of Crime might pop in. I'm not sure. I think on Friday, just for a little programming information, Jay from Guilty of Crime and Omar from The Tilted Lawyer are going to be here talking about the Soto case. So let me just copy, paste, pop this in here, send it to Omar so he can come up and join the discussion with us. There we go. And Omar, there we go. Does he have two addresses? I'll send them to both. All right. There we go. Okay. Yes. So, I texted him earlier, letting him know. It's like, said something about DELPHI case. So, oh my God, is there a verdict? And I said, yes, guilty on all counts. And he writes, F you, whatever. I said, oh my God, I just screamed that out loud in like a waiting room full of people. He was very surprised, like many of us are. Whisker, hey, how are you doing? Okay, so my friend Whisker is Rachel. Some of you might know her as Rachel. She came on the show when we were talking about, and Rachel, do you want to come up? I'm going to pop you the link in case you do want to come up. So this is for Justice A through Z or Rachel. If either of you want to come up, here is the link to panel. And I'll open up the panel a little bit later, but these people I just talked to earlier and specifically want to invite them up. So let me just give her the link. If you can come up, Rachel, that would be amazing. So some of the research that has been done on this case and others, because Rachel is an amazing researcher. I just want to give credit to Rachel, who is Whiskers here in chat, because she has just done such a good job researching a number of cases. Mello, welcome. How are you doing? And Veronica Williams, welcome. Nice to see you. Sarcasm from Omar's channel. Or you said hello to you, but I'm going to say hello again because I just landed on your name. And let's see, Susan Peterson, welcome. How's it going? Nice to see you. And I'm just getting down to the bottom here. Mary Beth, how are you doing? Nice to see you, my friend. In my opinion, welcome. How's it going? Jen's a Gypsy, welcome. And Sub Rosa, always happy when you're here. And okay, so I'm going to stop saying hello there. So Omar actually is backstage. So you know what? I'm just going to let him come up right now so we can start talking about this case together. Are you ready, Omar? Yeah, looks like you are. Okay. So,
Hey, Kelly.
Whoops, I got to change the view on the screen here. Okay. Whoop, can we do it like that? Yep. So everybody, welcome to Omar, who is the creator of The Tilted Lawyer there. How's it
How
going?
you doing, Kelly? I'm doing all right.
Long time no see.
I know.
My
It's
hair's
such a long
dry
time.
now. It's a good
It
thing.
all completely dry.
So, as I was just introducing this, I was telling everybody, that we were talking earlier and you were discussing 5 major things that you feel, and I wrote them down here if you don't have them right off the top of your head, but maybe you do, that you feel might be appellate issues on this case. Well, first of all, tell us how you feel about this verdict and why.
I'm still processing it. I am not accepting that this is the verdict. I mean, there's nothing to do. And like, it just sucks. Cause like once the verdict is in, it's in, and now this whole other appellate process begins. I really felt like I was prepping for like an acquittal show. That's what I was doing.
Right.
I did a show on Friday. It's like, oh, the jury asked to go home early. They're probably just exhausted. They're going to take the weekend. I'm thinking, look,
Sure.
maybe a mistrial, but I really think this is headed towards acquittal because the state just put on such a lackluster case. It was just borously bad. And but then I guess if you look at it from the perspective that what if you only got to hear the evidence that the judge wanted you to hear?
Yeah,
What
so
would
we're
you
not hating on the
think?
jury, right? We're just like
It's
saying
not their fault, man. They don't know.
they got
any
to
of this,
deliberate on what they heard.
Yeah, they have no idea what everybody's been arguing about.
Right.
They heard a confession. They know that the defense is trying to rescind on it, but like when a guy confesses like dozens of times, and it's hard to overcome. And so whatever they thought about the Reed technique and whatever limited information they were, it's even harder to fathom what their actual perspective of it all is, because I mean, we view it some way. I feel like we're just so colored by the coverage that we've all known and heard, and we know or have a feeling that the confessions were bullshit.
Right.
But they don't have the benefit of a YouTuber sitting in their ear or some media person on court TV or whatever to opine about how insufficient the evidence is. They weren't able to get in third-party culpability evidence, but even so, even without third-party culpability, I feel like there was enough for an acquittal here. And it's so, I mean, a guy, I don't feel like they got the right guy. I feel in my heart of hearts that he is going to be convicted. He's going to go to jail for the rest of his life. There's nothing we can do about it. I feel like they just zeroed in on him and railroaded him. Didn't allow him the opportunity for a fair trial for all the reasons that I had suggested earlier in my show. And I'm heartbroken for the guy. I'm heartbroken for the girls, for the family. And I feel like some of these jurors are going to go back and watch some of the coverage. Maybe we'll start doing some interviews and realizing how far off the public views their verdict.
And they have no recourse at this point, right? Like if the jurors go and like say, watch this and watch the other podcast, and they go, oh my God, if I had only known that, they have no recourse, right? They're done.
Imagine. Yeah, no, they're done. It's over. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. So I'd imagine they'd probably be upset about so much evidence that they didn't get to hear. And who knows how they're feeling, man. But I would not be very happy to learn all the stuff that didn't come in. I wouldn't understand if I was a juror why it wasn't relevant. Like, why couldn't I hear about some of this other stuff? Why couldn't I hear
They might feel incredibly slighted. Like, you chose us for a reason. You chose us because we are a jury of Richard Allen's peers. In our justice system, we leave, the ability to deliberate and the intellect of these jurors. We leave justice in their hands, and we should entrust. Since we say that's what we're going to do, that's what we should do. We should then entrust them with all of the evidence that can be presented about the case, right? That's how I feel about it. And they were shorted.
Yeah, they're pawns. It's like if you live over there in Indiana and you're of the opinion that law enforcement just kind of zeroed in on this guy, they wanted him to be the fall guy no matter what. Doesn't matter what the evidence pointed to. They got their guy. Somebody's up for re-election. Look, Richard Allen, you're the guy. You did it. You confessed. Right. Maximum security, 13 months in solitary confinement, 60 different confessions, being interviewed by a psychologist that was a true crime fan, planting evidence and what, ideas in his head. I don't know. But yeah. I would be, if I was a juror, I would be infuriated.
Yeah.
That I didn't get to hear some of this stuff.
So let's just present, let's tell everybody what like the main evidence is. I have a few things to present here too. So as far as I see it, and tell me if you don't agree or if you think I'm missing anything, the main evidence presented by the prosecution was they had that ballistics evidence. And something I wanted to mention when we were on your channel, but we were talking about a lot of good things. There's so much to discuss with this case. I'll mention it here. Sure. Was the nature in which that bullet was found. Now, I listened to Lauren from Hidden True Crime and Andrea Burkhart and Lawyer Lee. I'll talk about this. And apparently there is a bullet casing that was found between Abby and Libby. Now, since there was no sunshine in that courtroom, we had the eyes and ears of the 24 people on some days, 18 people on other days, and 16 people on other days who were allowed in. So these are the people I'm talking about, and I listened to. I'll put the links to their channels in the description box. They all did a great job. So apparently, they were using that alternate lighting to see if they could identify any blood around the crime scene. And there was one person, for whatever reason, you have to put on these goggles so you can see the fluorescence that the alternate lighting creates that indicates perhaps blood. So for some reason, there was one person who did not wear the goggles, and he just saw something that was kind of like sparkling, shining, just looked a little weird between the girls. And so he said, wait a minute, hold up, wait a minute, what is that? They went and retrieved the object, and it apparently was a bullet casing. Now, from what I understand, it was slightly embedded into the earth and covered with brush.
Yeah,
like it didn't look
covered
fresh.
with leaves. They had to dig it out, basically. It wasn't just laying there in plain sight.
Right, and this is hours after the murders happened. Now, if you don't mind, I just want to play. I did a video that recapped every single day of the trial. It's about 2 hours long. I just put it up at the end of the trial just a couple days ago on the DELPHI case. Let me just go to the day where they presented the ballistics evidence the first time around and just show everybody what was said about that, because I know not everybody watched every moment of this trial with like bated breath like I did.
Sure.
So I'm just going to bring that into the stream for a minute here, if that's cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, and moderators are dropping a link to this video. If you're interested in seeing what happened every day of the trial from start to finish, I put that together.
Late winter, early spring of 2017 was that investigators say they can't find the cell phone he was using back then, and then DNR Captain Dan Doolin testified.
It started playing a little earlier. That's a whole different issue, but we can revisit that.
6 weeks after the killing, the height on Allen's fishing license was increased 2 inches to 5'6", and his weight also listed was increased.
Day 7 included prosecutors bringing out their strongest piece of physical evidence. Thanks for joining us here first at 4. I'm Nick McGill.
And I'm Birshal Edme in for Leah. An unfired .40 caliber round took center stage here. And today the jury heard the testimony of an Indiana State Firearms police officer and expert. Fox 59's Russ.
Uh-oh. I don't know what happened to Kelly, but I'm going to take over. I have some of my notes with the bullet. And what we have, there's a lack of photographs of the entire bullet. It was photographed, but there wasn't any photographs that were taken after its removal from the ground. So it was impossible to fully document its condition at the time of the day. Oh, no worries. I was trying to clear the dead air.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just talking about how some of the issues about what the defense raised about why the bullet was problematic. There's a lack of photographs. It's impossible to fully document how it was discovered at the time of its discovery because it was under all this brush and was messed with and manipulated and whatever. And there was limited documentation of the surrounding area.
That's right.
Like the bullet itself, it was photographed, but limited photographs. There was a lack of detailed imagery. Nobody could really assess the context of the bullet's location and its relationships to the other evidence. So if you wanted to make the evidence or the point that the bullet was planted, how are you going to do that? You don't know how it was found.
That's right. They didn't collect enough evidence surrounding it, which you think they would realize at the time would be completely pertinent. My God, we have a murder here, and that was not, the girls were not murdered by a gunshot. They were murdered because their throats were slashed, essentially. But still, Here it is. If we're going to make a deal about it, make a deal and make it complete. Now, let me just finish playing this really quickly, and then I'll kick it back to you.
Sure.
And thank you for covering that.
Oh, you got it.
Thanks for joining us here first at 4. I'm Nick McGill.
And I'm Birshal Edme in for Leah. An unfired .40 caliber round took center stage here. And today the jury heard the testimony of an Indiana State Firearms police officer and expert. Fox 59's Russ McQuaid was in the courtroom once again all day long, and he's joining us now live from Delphi.
Yeah, Russ, the defense is promising to challenge that evidence and that expert, correct?
That's what we spent all day in court doing, Nick and Birshal. Yes, all afternoon, virtually all day, but especially all afternoon. A former Indiana State Police forensic firearms examiner has been on the witness stand.
You doing all right over there, Kelly? I don't know if you're having audio issues or whatnot. But finishing what I was saying about the bullet, there was obvious potential for contamination, the way that the bullet was recovered. There was speculation about late discovery and chain of custody issues, the handling procedures. It's the kind of issues that normally
I'm not going to try to play that again. Apparently it's cursed. So Omar gave you the idea anyway. It was, that bullet casing that was found between Abby and Libby, and there's a lot of questions even surrounding the validity of that evidence. In addition to that physical evidence that they had, the other thing that they had that you'd think, just to hear, you'd be like, well, of course that's strong evidence, but there is a lot that one needs to know about the apparent 61 times that Richard Allen confessed to killing Abby and Libby, right, Omar?
Well, yeah, it's the context of it all, and the jury was not allowed to see like I talked about.
I can't hear Omar. Good God.
You can't. Oh, you muted me. Did you hear me now?
I can't hear Omar. What is
Well.
going on? This usually only happens with Watts case material. you want to hop down and hop back up, Omar?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Oh, you hear Omar?
I can hear myself for what it's worth. Here, I'll pop out. I'll pop out and then try to go back in.
Okay, you could hear Omar and I couldn't. Okay, very good. Oh, but not very good. Okay, so in addition to that ballistics evidence they had, which a defense expert, I thought, pretty effectively refuted that evidence. They put up some good reasons why that evidence cannot be solely trusted as being the only physical evidence that exists for that case. Now, surrounding those 61 confessions were a lot of details that people really need to know about in order to evaluate if they think that confession evidence was legitimate or not. I'm going to bring Omar back up, and first I'm going to say a prayer so that I can hear him.
What's
Okay,
up, Joe?
hello.
Could you hear me now?
And I still can't hear him. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I don't know.
Let's see. Go ahead, keep talking, Omar. I'm going to open up another StreamYard link. I have no idea why it's doing that.
I don't know if anyone else could hear me, but I could hear myself. And, well, with respect to the confessions, there was an appealable issue that I had brought up, and it was surrounding the fact that the defense was not allowed to introduce some of the evidence of phone calls and jail surveillance footage of Richard Allen when he was first brought in. And the reason why it would have been relevant was for a couple of reasons. First, one of the arguments that the defense made was that he could not have given an authentic confession because of the state of his mental state and how it had so degraded over time when he was incarcerated. One of the pieces of evidence that would have been instructive to a jury was to be able to see video of him going into the jail in his normal state as he normally is when he was telling his dad and everybody else that he was innocent, that all this was bullshit. They didn't get to see that. It's not that the judge excluded it. It's that the reason that they excluded it was, look, you could bring it in, but then he's going to waive his Fifth Amendment right to not testify. So, of course, they don't want him to testify. He's already the kind of guy, if you're the defense team and you believe him, he's already the kind of guy that would give a false confession if that's what you believe happened. And so, of course, you're not going to try to subject him to a lengthy cross-examination where it might seek to prejudice his case and confuse the jury and make him look a certain way. So what you had was recordings and video and audio recordings of him when he was first there. And you have video recordings that were already introduced as part of the confession.
Oh my gosh.
The judge says, I'm not letting in the confessions. I'm not letting in the video from prior unless he gets up on the stand to testify and is subjected to cross-examination. I'm not so sure that legally the judge was allowed to do that. I mean, of course, there's law that supports that. But in a case where you're already introducing evidence of confessions that were said and argued to have been coerced, and you're not allowing other evidence from prior, unless Richard Allen gets up there to testify, that doesn't seem to me like a congruent decision, and one that should be subject to appeal because of how much it probably and likely prejudiced one of Richard Allen's main tenements of his defense, insofar as he was coerced into a confession through a systematic, complete degradation of his mental state over the course of 13 months, where he was kept in a maximum security prison in solitary confinement, where he gave these confessions. He was losing his mind. He lost his mind. He was eating feces. He was eating toilet water. He was losing weight. You saw the photographs of him. He was sickly. And so I'm not even sure if it's arguable that he didn't have some kind of mental deficiency, but I think that it would have been striking for a jury to see the difference from beginning to end about where it came, about where all that went. That was one of the appealable issues. Another one, well, we talked about the reliability of the ballistics evidence. That's certainly another appealable issue. The other appealable issue, obviously, is the exclusion of third-party culprit evidence. And I was mentioning on my show earlier that there is one key line of case law that that appeal is going to be based on. And it's going to be that the law, I'm looking at my notes, there was a case that outlines specifically what it is. Yeah, so to admit third-party culprit evidence, the defendant must establish a direct connection between the third party and the crime. So then the question becomes, okay, so there's been a bunch of direct connections. What specifically are we talking about? There was like a green handkerchief that was found at the scene of the crime that nobody knows where it came from. There was footprints that were not investigated. If you don't want to let that evidence in, fine, because you can't really directly connect that to anybody. However, one of the defense's theories of the case was that this wasn't just another person. This was potentially multiple people that were members of the same organization. What we have unequivocally was the scene at the crime where it appeared that the bodies were posed. And an exact pose that represented the hangman, this part of the tarot cards that just so happens to have been one of the biggest symbols of the Odin cult / religion, whatever you want to call it. Wasn't allowed to come into evidence. One would argue that that posing of the bodies, the way that it was posed, with respect to this Odin group and the symbology that it could arguably represent, would have allowed it to come in under the case law. The case law being Stevens versus State, 139 Northeast 3rd, 761. There's Joyner versus State. There's McGaha versus State. There's a bunch of different cases about that say what that is. So you have this argument about what does direct connection mean? If you can't argue that, okay, it was this third-party cult, and one of the aspects of this third-party cult is they participate in ritual-style killings. And one of the ways that they participate in ritual-style killings is in the posing of the bodies of the victims. And one of the ways that they pose them is in this very specific triangular symbol, or this hangman-looking thing, in the way that the bodies were posed. It just so happens to be one of the main symbols of this religion. If that is not a direct link at the scene of the crime to some different, if not singular person, organization, and it was excluded, I just don't understand how a judge can make that call. If you're letting all that evidence in, it seems to me a direct connection. All of this was argued at length over the course of months in pretrial motions, and the judge just decided it wasn't coming in.
Yeah.
And-
So,
Oh, you can hear me now.
oh yeah, I can. Thank you so much. I've been listening to everything you said. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So sorry about that, but keep going, please.
No, if I don't understand, and all of the lawyers that have been opining on this case are flabbergasted by this exclusion of third-party culprit evidence, when the case law evidence is clear, a direct connection. You got the way that the bodies were posed. You got the presence of a white man. You have a .40 caliber unspent shell that was recovered between the bodies that just so happens to fit the gun of the guy that was the owner of that white van that was placed at the scene by multiple people.
Same gun, same model, 6 hours, same model.
How in the F is that not a direct link is my point. And if that's the case law, the standard is going to be an abuse of discretion on the part of the judge, some legal error, her misinterpretation perhaps of what she thought direct link is supposed to mean. Like these judicial decisions that were made are just nonsensical. Like if I tell you all of that, like for example, if I were to just tell you what the case law is, you got to have a direct link to some other person related to the incident, and then you could bring that evidence in. And then I told you that there was evidence of the bodies were posed, and it sort of looks like how this other ritual that belongs to this group does it, and it really looks like they might have participated because of that. Oh, and by the way, shell casing, white van, this guy happens to own a gun like that would house that casing. All this other stuff, okay, so that must come in because of these cases, right? You would think that. But this judge took that and was like, no, not enough. It's not enough. It's not coming in. I don't care. Even when Weber got on the stand and had that fiery exchange with Richard Allen's defense team about his story changing, about his initial statement that he gave police and how it changed over time, and there was like some kind of incendiary exchange between the two of them, I was thinking, okay, that has to be enough to get in some of the third-party stuff. And they had lined up a couple of witnesses to go into that, and the judge disallowed it. I didn't understand it. I don't understand it. No other attorney seems to understand. I have yet to hear an attorney speak on it in a way that, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's just, I don't know.
No, you're totally right. And thank you for picking that up. And thank you for everything you're saying. And now I just want to address, like, as I'm watching some things in chat here. So Sub Rosa, first of all, you know that you're a very valuable member of this community and we want to hear your opinions. We are certainly not by any means saying that somebody who has the opinion that Richard Allen is guilty shouldn't be talking here. You know that this channel, it's not what it's about. And we welcome your opinions. It's just a discussion. Now, when we went into this trial, so I remember, my friend Rachel, who's in chat, who is Whiskers, I'm going to talk about some stuff that she provided as far as information from her research, because she's a great research that she's done. When we were first talking about this trial long ago, before I was really even talking about it on this channel, and, she's the person that sent me all the information about the Odinist. Like at first, I was like, oh gosh, I wanted to read it from because it was from her, but it sounded like so far out there, I didn't even want to read it. In my mind, I thought, well, Richard Allen has to be guilty. That's just how I was thinking. Now, even going into the trial, I was committed to keeping an open mind. But, if you said, life or death, you have to pick right now, is the man guilty or not? I would have said to you, okay, he's guilty. Fine. That's what I really think. Okay. Now, as the trial was going on, I was weary about some decisions that the judge had already made. I was weary about the fact that she had kicked Rossi and Baldwin off of the case long ago. Nobody really understands why. It clearly seems like a bias or a personal agenda or something. It doesn't make any sense. Judges don't make decisions like that. Judges are supposed to be the keepers of justice, maintaining neutrality in their decisions. And I have a couple of friends who are judges, because both my dad's ex-law partners, as some of you know, are county judge now, and like the last one. And, we always talked about this stuff. We, have dinner, talk about these things, and they would tell me about their training. And, that is what they are so, trained to be the keepers of justice, in the sense that you really have to train the tendency to have bias out of somebody, because it's almost like the human condition, right?
Yeah,
but
you're right.
Judges are supposed to not have that human condition. They're supposed to be a little, above that human level in some ways. And it doesn't seem from start to finish in this case that this judge was able to achieve that. Now, is that saying that I think that Richard Allen is absolutely unequivocally not guilty? I am not saying that, because I truly do not know. But what I can tell you is, from the evidence that was presented in this case, I certainly could not say that he is. So that's where I stand on that.
Look, I'm with you. I don't know if he did it or not for sure, obviously. All I'm saying is, I've been doing this a long time. And the way that he was treated, the way that he was handled, he was arrested, not sent to county. He was sent to maximum security prison, in isolation, in a holding cell, in like the deepest, darkest dungeon over there. And he was kept there for over a year. And he was harassed.
13 months in solitary confinement.
That is, I was telling you earlier on my show how depressing it is to have to be there even for like a couple of hours, man. It sucks. It is just so heavy and draining on your soul. And you saw the guy, man, he was like drinking toilet water and smearing his feces all over the place. And they played video for the jurors. It looked like he was probably flipping out over there. He was losing his mind. And at the same time confessing to things, because he's been told hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times, that, look, you need to get this off your chest. These two girls need justice. You don't want them to have to suffer anymore, don't you? They need justice. You did this. Your heart will be free. All you got to do is confess. You owe it to your wife. You owe it to those girls. You owe it to their families. You're not a monster. You're not a monster, are you? Of course you're not a monster. Do the right thing. Confess. Confess. Every single day, over and over and over. And if anybody out there thinks that they wouldn't be susceptible to making some kind of false confessions, having to undergo that kind of a torture, oh, you're sadly mistaken, man. The mind is a funny place, and you can become trapped in it. And when you become trapped in it, things become funny. The walls start
That's
closing
right.
in. And just everything is a little bit different. Your perception's a little bit different. And if somebody wants to confess, like, why am I in here? I must have done it. You lose your mind. You literally, have you ever seen these YouTube videos about when they go into these sensory deprivation chambers?
That's right.
Completely soundproof, no light or whatever. Oh, here, sit in there for an hour. They can't do it. The silence in the room, not being able to hear their voice echo off of the walls, not being able to see anything. The silence in the room becomes so deafeningly loud that they start hallucinating. Literally. It's not much different from these solitary confinement chambers, which is where she was, or he was. I don't know. I was reading this thing on the bottom. It's distracting me. This Casey Anthony was in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Well, and add to that, Omar, So like something that really caught my attention is my day life, I'm a behavioral therapist. Now the psychiatrist that was called to the stand talked about, and I was talking about this on Omar's channel. Well, two things. First of all, that, the way that we create false memories, and they often start with us, making statements and thinking in our own mind, like, well, I may have done this. This may have been the case. This could have been the scenario, which is precisely how Richard Allen started his confessions to his family members and to whoever else claimed that he confessed to them. And then eventually over time, those assertions about your own experience start to solidify, and they are in your brain. When we are remembering something, we're not actually remembering that experience. We are remembering the last time our mind visited that experience.
Yep.
So when you're remembering the last time you hugged a loved one that you lost, you're not, and I'm sorry if this seems sad because it kind of does, you're not really remembering that. You're remembering the last time you thought about hugging that loved one. Okay. So it really is a very complex issue. Now, add to that additionally, that Richard Allen was diagnosed as, well, first of all, being psychotic. Second of all, he already had pre-existing issues of depression, anxiety. He was taking Prozac when he went into the situation, and he was specifically diagnosed as having dependent personality disorder. What does that mean? It means that you are dependent to the people closest to you in your life to form your very own thoughts and opinions on things. And for Richard Allen, this would have been his wife. So now he was, dependent on his wife, and he was dependent on that connection to her and to not losing her. He didn't really have a solidified sense of self. So as Omar said, when these guards, and as Whiskers is saying here in chat, are in his ear, saying, confess, confess, confess. It's going to free your soul. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. He is more than an average personality, susceptible to internalizing that and acting upon it as if it's his own thinking.
Absolutely.
So for that reason, and I'm not saying, again, normally confession evidence could be very strong. It could be very compelling, but it very much depends on the context and also that individual's own personality characteristics, and of course, what kind of stress, what they're undergoing, what their experience of life is at that time.
I'm going to depress you a little bit, Kelly, before I have to run here. I'm going to depress you a little bit. As egregious as these appellate issues are, I'm not confident in Richard Allen's ability to prevail on appeal. I mean, his best chance would be the third-party culprit stuff. But I can see an appellate court saying, yeah, but even so, they relied on the confessions. It wasn't so much the third-party stuff. It's just that the jury believes that he confessed 60 times, so harmless error. Maybe they'd say something like that. Unless they made a finding that, look, the jury deserved to hear this in conjunction with the false confession evidence. We need a new trial. I could also see them saying that. I just don't have much confidence about how things are going over there in Indiana. This is going to work out. I think that he could win the third party culprit evidence, but I talked about the admissibility of composite sketches. I don't think he's going to win that issue on appeal. It's something that they're going to try to raise, I'm sure, because it's something that points towards his innocence, insofar as that none of those sketches really resembled him. The third thing I said was, the validity of his confessions. I just don't think. Look, you can argue that the confessions should have never been allowed to be admitted into evidence. You could say
And
that.
you also mentioned the evidence that, like Mello here is saying, that showed what he was like from
Yeah.
when this all started to
Right.
when the confessions occurred.
That's my fear. And so, like, we have this issue, and you can make the argument that the confession shouldn't have never been brought to evidence, and you'd be wrong because the judge is going to say, "What's an issue for the jury to decide?" I'm not going to. The jury should be allowed to see the confessions. They deserve to see that. Then the counter argument is like, fine, but then they also get to see this other evidence about what he was like in the beginning and when he was professing his innocence to his dad and all these other people, where he was not out of his mind yet and all this other stuff. And then they will say, yeah, but he waived that because he could have got that in, but he chose not to testify. Then the question becomes was it fair for the judge to make that restriction upon Richard Allen, given that what they were trying to get in was pre-recorded video and audio evidence? Because at that point, it stands for what it stands for. You can't cross-examine a video. Who you would have cross-examined would have been probably, I don't know, the persons that run the surveillance or whatever, the persons that recorded the video. But they allowed the confessions without having any requirement that Richard Allen testify. It stands to reason that the jury should be able to see the other side without forcing Richard Allen to abandon his Fifth Amendment right. That, to me, should be the appellate issue that ties issue number 5 together with issue number 3, and I think should garner him a new trial. I'm just not confident that it's going to work on appeal because that needs to be fleshed out. And I think that is probably going to be an issue of first impression over there in Indiana. Because like I said, I would need some time to brief the issue. I'm just willing to guess that there is some case law that speaks to the necessity for the state's rights to cross-examine and confront witnesses, and the defense's ability to include recorded evidence without waiving their Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate themselves. There's got to be some middle ground there. And I'm not sure what it is, but it needs to be fleshed out because that should have been an exception in this case. It's ridiculous that you get to have these arguably unreliable confessions without getting to hear or see the full context of how Richard presented from the beginning to how he presented at the end, and to even be able to know that, look, he wasn't always going off on these tangents, giving these false confessions. The very fact that he confessed 60 times should lead you to believe that he's kind of off his rocker. Most people don't do that.
What WTF is wrong with him? Right.
Yeah.
People do not do that. Yeah, absolutely. And then the point about with them not bringing in those conversations with his parents, where he was very lucid when this all started before he went to the state of psychosis, where he was very apparently lucidly proclaiming his innocence, should really be compared with the fact that a lot of people who were at the trial said one of the most compelling things to them, by far the most compelling confession that was made to them, was a confession that he made to his mother that was very emotional, yet at the same time, as described by lawyer Lee and some other people that were there, that they didn't believe the nature of the other confessions due to the context they were in and the circumstances he was in, but they believed that confession. So if that is such a powerful piece of evidence, it seems that the jury should be able to hear a conversation with that same person in the very beginning before, like Rachel said, he wasn't involuntarily given Haldol because he was in a psychotic state and all these other things happened, that he was intimidated by being jailed by guards with literally odorous patches on their uniforms. That is not contested. That is a fact. And I was saying today to Omar, for the first time, thanks to Whiskers here in chat or my friend Rachel, I finally saw the crime scene photos that were leaked. The first time they came around and I had an opportunity to, I did not want to, because some things you just don't want to have burned in your brain forever. But thanks for Rachel, because the only reason each of us wanted to see them now was due to the verdict. We wanted to see specifically not the bodies for grotesque or morbid reasons by any means. I don't ever really want to see that at all. But the way that the branches or the sticks that were spoken about in trial were laid upon Abby and Libby's body. And Rachel's in here in chat as Whiskers, and she'll tell you as much as I did. And I don't know if anybody else has seen those pictures, but the way those branches were laying upon those girls was not arbitrary. It was clearly not an attempt to cover the bodies. If that were to be done, the person would have covered them with brush and debris and all kinds of things that literally covered their bodies. Their bodies were, make no mistake about it, not covered. those branches were making very specific angles and symbols, because that's just the word stuck in my head, on their bodies. There was something about that. I don't know what it is. Maybe I would know exactly what it was if
the
they
way
were
that they
allowed to
were-
have brought the odinist or third-party culpability evidence
Right.
into the trial, because it always should have been the case.
It would have been
ahead.
pointless to do that because they couldn't talk about Odin. But the bottom line was the way that everybody describes the blood flow. It's like the bodies were inverted at some point and posed to it look like the hangman symbol on the tarot card,
Right.
which is a very Odinistic trope. That would have been a direct link to some other culprit, not Richard Allen. Going back to the appellate issue, it's just it's
goodness
disgusting
gracious.
to know
Keep
that
talking.
the judge wasn't allowed, or that the judge didn't allow that evidence to come in. Lawyer Lee is one of the least biased I have seen. Well, I haven't watched too much of Lawyer Lee. I've listened to Andrea Burkhart. She was the main one that I got most of my. It's hard to listen to these cases when you're not in the trial, because your impressions of the case are going to be colored by the persons you're getting the information from. Court TV has a panel of lawyers. They all seem to be mostly in agreement that, hey, something's fishy over here. I haven't seen really many, if any, arguments that are saying, oh, yeah, this is a wonderful verdict. They got the right guy. Nobody's like that. It's like somebody died. And people are depressed over the outcome of this case because of the way that the evidence has played out, the way that the judge has manipulated it. And look, it's one thing for it to go down the way it went down. It's quite another for it to happen that way and then have a judge issue a gag order, not let cameras in or let the general public see the entire trial for themselves, because it just lends to this idea that something's fishy over there. And I think that's just the general sentiment as we peer into Indiana about what's actually going on in their judicial system.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was listening to everything you said, and absolutely everything you said. And now, the people like Sub Rosa, seriously, calm down. If you want to come up here on panel and say your opinion, I invite you to come up on panel and talk about it. Nobody is trying to silence what you're saying. And, I am not usually one to say, I am not one who thinks everything is a conspiracy. Not at all. In fact, I say all the time, I'm not a conspiracist. This is not a conspiracy channel, because it simply is not. Like, I really need to be convinced that something has gone wrong with an investigation, that something has gone wrong with a judicial process, for me to kind of like turn against all of that and be, really passionately feel that the outcome of a trial, the outcome of an investigation is wrong. It's not my natural tendency to think that. As I've told y'all before, I've been raised as like a law and order kind of person, and I've always believed in that to some degree. But I've also been, I'm also a critical thinker, like you're saying. Evaluating all this should take critical thinking skills, and that's exactly what we are using here, and it is why this is so painful. It is not that everyone's like, Richard Allen's innocent. It's not it at all. Again, I know it's my personal opinion. I think it's the opinion of a lot of other people who are feeling somber or upset about this, is that we didn't even get to the point where we, the public, would know that, first of all, because there was no sunlight in that courtroom. I mean, which was absolutely insane given the importance of this trial. And, the judge did not want people to hear or see what was going on. Why? I don't exactly know, but she was also making bad decisions at the same time.
Well, look, the problem is,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, but
No,
the problem is, you could say, oh, Andrea Burkhart, she is biased. Lawyer Lee is biased. I'm not sure that they are.
Right.
Andrea Burkhart, from what I've seen of her, is one of the most objective trial attorneys that are out there. I've seen, I don't watch the individual lawyer channel cover. I try to limit that. But Lawyer Lee, she was in the courtroom. So, of course, everybody's getting their information from her. She's there. Andrea Burkhart was there. Court TV was there. There's not been much, if any, coverage of this case that has suggested, oh, no, everything's going down exactly how it was expected to go down. Nobody has expressed, the judge's decision makes perfect sense because this, and that. Everybody's flabbergasted because, look, I've been a lawyer for a long time. Lawyer Lee, Burkhart, lawyer, whoever else has been covering the case have been lawyers for a long time. You know how evidence works. And the way that the evidence, it's not even so far that I'm defending Richard Allen. I'm defending the way that this case was allowed to proceed, because Anybody in your chat could get railroaded the same way. And when they do, they're going to want certain constitutional protections in place, and specifically with respect to the evidence code, and the way that the evidence was allowed to proceed in this case was disgusting. And
That's
really,
right.
that's where my rage. I have no dog in this fight. I don't know Richard Allen. I'll never know him. I don't know if he's guilty or innocent. But this was not a fair trial, and those girls deserved a fair trial. That family deserved a fair trial. Richard Allen deserved a fair trial. The general public deserved it, not this mismatch of whatever in the hell that was. And that's all I got to say about it. So I'm not trying to say, people say, oh, you listen to this person, what they're biased. No, they're lawyers, and they went to law school, and they know how evidence works, and they know bullshit when they see it. And most of the opinions in this case are geared specifically towards the lack of respect for the rules of evidence in this case. That's all I got to say about it, man. That's all.
And we want that for you and Richard Allen and everybody else and people we love in ourselves as much as everybody else. Like I say all the time on this channel, when we stop caring about how this goes down, that's the day when we can stop expecting that the justice system is going to be there to defend our rights and our freedoms and protect us when we want to be protected. Now, I just want you guys to listen to, this was an interview with Doug Carter, who is the superintendent. If you could just listen to this, Omar, I want to get your reaction to this. I don't know if you have to go. I know it's partly family.
No, you're
there.
Good. I can do this one.
This is what he had to say in an interview right after Richard Allen was arrested. Now, this does not, to me, sound like a superintendent of a state police who thinks that the crime is fully solved. But let me know what you think, and I'm going to say a prayer. This doesn't cut out on me. Let's see. Interview, a rare interview with Superintendent of Indiana State Police Doug Carter, speaking about the recent arrest of Richard Allen, Keegan Kline, and the case in general. Take a listen to what he has to say in this interview, and please leave a comment letting us know what you think. We all want to know what you think. Also, please hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel, and thanks for watching.
The guy in custody, Richard Allen, is he the only person being looked at in this investigation?
Right now, he's the one that's been that's now facing murder charges. So, again, we are not going to stop looking at other people until this is completely done and we have nothing left to do.
Okay, so here we listen to Doug Carter talking, and we hear him fumbling over himself a little bit. Usually, I think Doug Carter is very well spoken. He says what he means, and he means what he says. And when he's asked about Richard Allen, he says he's the only one who's currently been arrested, and they're not going to stop until, they have everyone involved, is essentially what I think he's saying here. As you'll hear in the rest of this interview, I think it's clear, in my opinion, that Doug Carter is implying that there is more work to do, and there are more people out there who will be charged and arrested related to the Delphi murders.
One of the things that I've heard is, why not release the cause of death? Not because people are morbidly curious, but if they knew they were looking for somebody that was either a stab or a gunshot, maybe they know somebody that sold the gun, sold the knife. Maybe they could find the weapon somewhere. What's the rationale for not releasing the official cause of death?
Oh, lost Kelly. I think she was going to ask me about my opinion about Wilder. I think he sounded like a guy that was finished with his investigation. And no, I don't. But I think that just from what I remember about the case at that time, the Odin theory was prevalent throughout the entire investigation. It was well known at that point that the bodies had been posed in a ceremonial way, although the exact details were not divulged. The theories of multiple people being involved with the murder was a well-known one, but then they had Richard Allen in there. What I was suggesting like 6 months ago, when I don't remember the exact date, when I first covered this case, maybe it was like back in March. I guess it would have been like 7-8 months ago. I was wondering why they were rushing to get Richard Allen when even back then they were speculating that there wasn't a whole lot of evidence tying him directly to the crime. Did they rush to get this guy arrested? There was talk about these confessions, and they were reporting it on court TV as if it was like open and shut.
Confessions.
And then the defense attorneys started coming in and saying that there was something fishy going on. And I don't know. I think that they have always been of the opinion that there was probably multiple people involved. But I also think that I forget who it was that was up for re-election over there. They were under some intense scrutiny, and they thought that maybe we're just going to bring charges against this guy. We're going to go after him. He's going to be the guy. I'm going to get reelected. It'll be fine. And I think that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And for that person's position, we're going to sacrifice Richard Allen and his entire family and tell these girls that, oh, we found justice. Look, here's their sacrificial offering. That's how it feels like it went down.
Yeah. And, in the point, and I just agree with everything you're saying.
To sub Rosa, yes, I do. Because to the families of the victims, I think about them the most.
Right.
And I think about them and I'm like, they're going to be dealing with an appeal. Let's just say that Richard Allen did it. Let's just say that he's guilty. And they caught him and they got him. The way that this case was tried, so haphazardly and unprofessionally and negligently, they have subjected this family to years and years and years of appellate review. I've identified haphazardly just today in the space of 20 minutes, looking over my notes, 6 different appellate issues that are all going to have to be ferreted out. And some of them are tied together, and that's not going to be over quickly. And they're always going to have these questions in their minds. Was this a rush to judgment against Richard Allen? Did they really get the same guy? They're not celebrating today the conviction of Richard Allen because they're going to have in the back of their mind, is he really even the guy? You don't think that they don't hear like all the other stuff going on about these potentially other suspects? You don't think that they don't know about this Odin theory of stuff? You don't think that they don't watch the coverage of these cases? My heart breaks for them the most. And what I would tell the families right now, if they were sitting right across from me, is like, in my heart of hearts, I hope they don't have the right guy, or I hope they don't have the wrong guy. And there's nothing that I'm going to be able to tell you guys that is going to quell whatever questions you have.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can really say against that, When
I heard this verdict today, when I heard this verdict today, I was so upset by it. I literally, I was weeping when I heard it. I was saying earlier, the only other case I've ever really reacted to that, I think emotionally, was the case with Casey Anthony. Now, the first people I thought of were Abby and Libby's families.
Yeah.
Because, I'm thinking, yes, maybe they appeared to be celebrating today, but they did have questions all along, and whether they were the right questions or not, who knows? They had all kinds of chaos and confusion in their hearts and minds because, my God, the hell that they have gone through. So for them to get this like momentary relief today, to think like this is all over, oh, we finally got him, this justice system has worked, without even knowing today the nightmare that they are likely about to embark on with all of these very legitimate appellate issues, as Omar is so kindly outlined for us, that is absolute hell. So I mean, I just want to say, like, please don't anybody accuse us of being insensitive to the families. This is first and foremost about justice for Abby and Libby, and for the families, and for the safety of a community who might have a murderer of 2 little girls still at large. And it has been 7.5 years. Well, largely, that bit that I was playing from Doug Carter, what he essentially is saying, one of the things he says in it is that this case is the most complex I've seen in my 40 years in law enforcement. And it has many tentacles. And he is not leaving it just at having a period at the end of it with the arrest of Richard Allen. He clearly is leading the interviewer to believe that there is more to come, because I believe he thought that there was. In fact, I made a video about this just a little while ago. The defense filed a motion to have Keegan Kline on retainer to be available at this courthouse at some undetermined time during the trial. Now, along the way, there were a lot of people that thought Keegan Kline was involved. It just so happens that Keegan Kline cut this unprecedented deal. I'll provide the link in the description to a video I made about this with law enforcement, that on that very same day, he led them to the Wabash River, which was the river where they recovered several firearms that they at first were allowing people to believe that may be connected to the case. And in short order after, within like a week, Richard Allen was arrested. So the timeline of it does seem that the information that was given by Keegan Kline that got him this sweet ass deal, did have something to do with cinching the arrest of Richard Kline. But to this day, we don't know that. That's a question that should be very easily answered through transparency in court documents, but we don't have that in this case.
I don't know, man. I feel like if I was these girls' father, maybe my view is a little bit skewed because I'm a lawyer, but I would have watched this trial play out, and I would be so infuriated with the holes in this investigation. And
Absolutely.
if you want to view this as like one-sided coverage because we're pointing out the holes, look, I'm just looking at the way that the evidence came out. I'm literally just looking through my notes like, wait a minute, this doesn't fit, that doesn't fit, this doesn't fit. I'm not even making opinions about guilt or innocence. I'm just like,
No.
why did we use the Reed technique? Why is this guy sitting here in a maximum security cell for 13 months? Why has he been isolated from his families? How do we get these 60 confessions? And where's the experts that's going to tell me, that this was a good confession? The experts in this case, and I don't know how the evidence came out at trial for the juries, but it just appeared to me that they're arguing mental degradation, but the jury's not going to be allowed to see it from, in all the contexts from day one to year, month 13 or whatever it was. The fact that we have all of these appellate issues, this is going to be a running issue probably for 6 to 10, 15, 20, I don't know.
Yeah.
How long do appeals work in Indiana, man? I would be furious. Even if I thought Allen was guilty, and I have no opinion about his guilt or innocence. I have an opinion that there was mountains of reasonable doubt in the case. And my fury lays with the judge and the way that the case was handled in terms of her judicial decisions and the way that the investigation negligently ignored so many other things and just ran, tunnel vision towards Richard Allen and just made him the guy.
Yeah.
Have no faith in whatever's happening in Indiana. So call it one-sided if you want. I'm not picking sides. I'm pointing my ire directly at law enforcement and the judge, the judiciary over there, and their culpability in this mess that we have. And that's all I got to say before I got to go, Kelly. I'm going to be
Amen
so
to
much
that.
trouble.
And thank you so much, Omar. Thank you. Thank your family for giving us your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You guys take care. You guys have a wonderful night.
All right. Thanks, Omar. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. All right, guys. So that's it. That's what Omar, the Tilted Lawyer, had to say. Please check out his channel, subscribe if you haven't, I just expect also on this channel that we be polite and to guests when they come here. Omar is not by any means a biased person. My God, he is not. Like all the cases, the coverage that he does on his channel, the conversations that I've had with him privately, he is not at all biased. He is all about justice. And that is why I have him on this channel, because that is what I want on this channel, because I believe all the things that I just said about Omar are true of this channel. And if you don't know that, that's okay, but definitely do not accuse us of doing something terrible to the victims' families, because first and foremost, above all, always, we are for the victims and their families. It's what it is all about. Yeah. Thank you, guys. So, I don't know, Justice A through Z, Honey Bun, does anybody want to come up on panel? I'm actually getting a little exhausted. Just talking about this case today was a little more exhausting than I realized it was going to be. But if anyone does want to come up, I'm going to open that up. So I'm going to provide you the link to panel right here. And again, thank you to Rachel, who is in chat now, for, doing such great research work and getting information all along about this case. So here is the link to panel. Yeah, I mean, Omar took time out from his family tonight, because I stream a little later when he usually gets home from work and it's family time. So it's very kind for him to come up. So, yeah. Hey, thanks, Mel. Nice to see you. Or Mello, nice to see you, by the way. So there's a link if anybody does want to come up. Let's see. So Amanda Kay says, some media companies are controlled companies and report what they're told to, not necessarily the truth. Absolutely. And not letting all the media in makes you wonder why not be transparent. Absolutely. I mean, from the very beginning, this was such a not transparent case, like every step of the way. And, it is part of our constitutional right that trials will be held in a public forum. And, everything that happens in a trial is supposed to be made available to the public. So we as people of our society who are supposed to be taking part in our justice system are able to see what happened, evaluate what happened, and decide if moving forward that needs to change through legislation or whatever it may be, because we have that system of checks and balances. You know, we have the president, we have our legislative branch, we have our judicial branch, and that's how it works. And the public is supposed to be in charge and in control of all of that and how it changed. That is the entire idea of democracy in the United States. And that did not happen here. And it is so very troubling. So I have backstage right now, Honey Bun, your camera's on, which is great. I'd love to see your beautiful face. I just want to let you know, I always tell people when their camera's on, and also Sub Rosa. So I'm going to let them both on right now. So welcome to Honey Bun and Sub Rosa. Hey guys, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Hey, good. Awesome. So
Hey,
Sub Rosa,
Sub, I love you.
Yes,
Love you
I
too.
love you too, Sub Rosa. You know that. But so let me hear from you first, because I was reading out some of your comments in chat, and I know that you and I, well, I don't know if we disagree on Richard Allen's guilt, because I do not at this point have an opinion on Richard Allen's guilt. I had a strong belief in his guilt at some point. It has lessened over time, because my feeling is if he was guilty, the prosecution should certainly be able to put forth the evidence that they no doubt have if they did their jobs to let me know that he is beyond a reasonable doubt guilty, and they did not do that. So that is the only place where I stand. So what do you say?
Kelly, I think that that the law enforcement made some mistakes in this case. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I still feel like Richard Allen was proven guilty in a court of law, and I thought, people aren't going to accept this. Like the Richard Allen fan club, or all these people that are rallying around Richard Allen. He's innocent. He's innocent. I thought to myself that they're not going to accept this. This is going to be. And I think I was right about that. All I'm hearing is appellate issues. The appeals are going nowhere. He's in there for the rest of his life. He's proven guilty.
Well, but there are people that are part of the Richard Allen fan club, just the way that you and I both know. There are people, and you call it out every time so well before I even notice it. There are people that are part of the Brian Koberg fan club. There are people that are part of the Nicole Kessinger fan club. Why? Because, well, I have differing opinions on both of those issues, but let's just say the case of the Brian Koberg fan club, I think it's really started from some YouTube channels that disseminated some incorrect information because they had nothing to talk about anymore after they were getting a lot of views from that case. And they did so. They band together. They got people to play parts for them and say things for them. And that is in part what perpetuated the Brian Koberger fan club. So when you say a fan club of something, that's the kind of thing that I think I, or nobody that I would have on this channel, is any part of a Richard Allen fan club. I certainly am not, but I am a fan of ensuring that justice goes down the way it should, for me, for you, and for everybody else.
Kelly, there was a gag order in this case, so we may not all think that the judge is on the level or whatever, but what I'm saying is there was a gag order in this case.
And it's still in effect.
Right. Yeah, which is wild. That gag order basically said, that the prosecution and the defense are not allowed to be making public announcements. And this 136-page odinous document, right, that they disguised as a Frank's motion. I implore you to go look at any other Frank's motion ever filed. They're not 136 pages. Frank's motions are not supposed to be public announcements when the judge has said there's a gag order. So there's 136 pages of Odin this, Odin that the defense was given the opportunity to prove. And Omar knows that. Omar knows this, that in order for the defense to put in a third party defense, they have to prove a little bit something that third party could be responsible. And they were given the opportunity to prove that there was Odinism, and they were unable to do it. In fact, I mean, it was a real, turd show when they tried to, the person that they had come up on the stand and talk about, Odinism. It's just nonsense. It's garbage.
Wait, who did they have come up and talk about Odinism?
The same expert, supposed expert that was on court TV, like, I don't know, like a year beforehand saying, it had to be Odinism, so, I mean, that's, and the Judge Gohl, said, this is not a viable third party defense. They gave them more than enough opportunity. In the pretrial hearings, they were given the opportunity to prove a third party defense, and they were unable to do it. So it's not like Judge Go is corrupt and she's not allowing them. She most certainly would allow them, but there has to be some sort of evidence, and Omar knows that.
But see, well, that's where I'm going to say, like, I just identified a point where we would not agree. I do not see Judge Gull as being somebody, what she knew or not, I don't know. All I know is how she ruled in this case. And time again, I think her rulings were unfair. Letting in, it's almost, I was saying on Omar's channel earlier, she would just let in so much evidence, and then there'd be an arbitrary point where it would stop. Like with, the Brad Weber guy, it's like, he
Right.
lived on this road. There was only two people. He had a white van. Even his neighbor, there's only two houses on this little dirt road. His neighbor said at 8:30 in that morning on the day of the murders, she remembered it specifically because it was so alarming and it was so unusual. There was some strange man standing out by her mailbox at 8:30 in the morning. She says, honey, do you know that strange guy standing out by the mailbox? No. And it alarmed her. She made note of it. And that is something that she said like had never happened before. So there's all this strange stuff around it. Then to find out that Brad Weber, made a statement to police, and then he changed his statement materially, saying, no, actually, I didn't get home at that time. I got home at this time because I had to go put money into my ATMs. He owns ATM machines. What I think he was probably trying to do was take himself out of being in that area at the time of the crime, but you still shouldn't do that. You can't do that, and you have to be honest with law enforcement. And then it's found that in the very front seat of his truck was a Sig Sauer gun, same model as Richard Allen's, and that wasn't looked into, but it was known. I think that's freaking crazy. So there's this arbitrary point where we let Brad Weber on the stand just to talk about the fact that he drove a white van, which was something that they say, oh, Richard Allen said something about a white van, something only the murderer would know. Well, a white van, as we had said, I can't remember at this point if it was on Omar's channel or this channel. They're both kind of running together. We just did his channel a little while ago. A white van had been talked about and speculated about in regards to the Delphi case from the very beginning. I was looking through the archives of Reddit posts and Facebook posts just earlier, and it was white van, because it is a fact that there was some archetypal creeper in Delphi driving a white van, like, we all warn our children about giving candy to children. And, it was really that like stereotypical case that was happening. So because that was happening, people were speculating, which makes sense. I mean, I would think that if this was my community, and maybe it was probably that creeper in the white van trying to give candy to kids, because creepers in white vans trying to give candy to kids are probably murderers, because that's what that's what we all believe.
I mean, if we're talking about Brad Weber changing his story, I think it's fair that we talk about Richard Allen changing his story, because the statement that he gave to Dan Doolin was that he was there from 12:30 to like 3:00, right?
And then he changed it.
And then he changed it. Yeah.
Absolutely,
and I mean,
we should.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm hearing from the other people in chat. Well, there's no evidence. There's no proof. Well, I mean, that's part of the evidence right there. He changed his story, and on top of changing his story about what time he was there that day, he also changed his height on his fishing license for the first time.
He did do
right?
that.
Oh yeah, he absolutely did. He has had years of hunting and fishing licenses, and all of them had his height, which was like 5'4".
5'4". He changed it to 5'6".
Yes, and this was like 2 months after the murders.
That's right.
And
it was
so
4,
so there's some more evidence for me. I don't know if you've seen. I mean, I'm not
Absolutely.
a big.
And you know what? And I think that all should have come in, but I think it all should have come in from both sides. I think that the judge, my perception of this is, and I respectfully say this to you, my perception is that the judge arbitrarily control, or maybe with intention, I don't know, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt by saying arbitrarily control the flow of evidence that came into the jurors, ability to be evidence that they deliberated on, and that is not the position of a judge in the United States. That's not what
I agree, Kelly. I think they should have had cameras in the courtroom so that we can see it from our own eyes. Because all this does is further to these conspiracy theories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then and gag orders also cause these sort of conspiracy theories. I mean, it's insane that the gag order is still in effect. I mean, like you said, that's insane.
That's unheard of. Yeah,
it is unheard of. Yeah,
I'm not. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm not 100%, that Judge Gold did the best job she could do. I don't think that Judge Gold did as good of a job as she could have done and as she should have done. The defense came to the judge with with the videos, and they said, okay, these are videos that we want to play of Richard Allen in the prison. And the judge said, okay, you can play those videos of Richard Allen in the prison, right?
Mhm.
And then when the prosecution said, okay, well, we've got some videos that we'd like to play of Richard Allen in prison, they were not allowed. So I mean, like, that's just another thing that where Judge Gold is in error. And I think if there are appellate issues, like, that should be an appellate issue. And I think that if they do get a retrial, then I think that the prosecution should be allowed to play their videos from the prison, because I mean, he was doing some nasty things. I mean, you are aware of that. He was standing there, touching himself in front of the counselor. He was smearing poo all over himself and maybe in his mouth. Like there was.
But that and I think that the psychological aspect, especially with what I do, I think that is something that really needs to be considered. And I do think, from the sounds of it, and I still think we should know more information about it. So I think this trial should have been longer. I should think there should have been more information in it. I think that was very well when he was legitimately in a psychotic state, when he just and when a person is in that state of mind, it's not like I'm going to do this in front of this person. It's inappropriate. They don't have the cognitive wherewithal to like work through that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I hear people saying, oh, well, he was given drugs. Yeah, he was given Haldol because because he was just
psychotic,
completely out of control, and like they had to do something to just bring him back in line, and that that's what sometimes has to happen. And I mean, but I don't believe he was in prisoner of war conditions. I think that's just part of the defense team's narrative. I don't think that's a fact. I mean, so people that are in these POW camps, they don't have tablets where they can talk to their family every day. He could talk to his family anytime that he wanted to. These phone calls are like an hour long.
He was in solitary confinement for 13 months, and and I've heard other people equating, and I understand why, because there are some clear parallels. But I think prisoners of wars, part of the whole idea of our justice system was we do not want to allow people to live in those conditions in our society, whether it's because they are in government custody or because they are out there on the streets and not in government custody. Let me just let Honey Bun say a couple of things here, because we haven't let her talk yet. So, hey, Honey Bun, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm battling my Wi-Fi right now.
No, I can hear you good. Yeah. Great.
Okay, perfect. I'm having to go solely on my phone's signal, and it's horrible.
No, I can hear you great. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Well, the only thing that I would have to say is I'm going to reiterate what I had said to you earlier, that first of all, I do believe that he is possibly guilty. I lean more towards him being guilty, but they did not do right by him at all. Nothing was fair about, especially how they treated him, innocent until proven guilty.
And by not doing right by him, would you agree? It's not doing right by all of us, because
by all of us, correct?
Yeah, so that is, they didn't do right by him.
This
and
is
doing so. It's showing lack of respect for all of us.
This is our future. This is how we don't want to be treated like this. And look at it, every single one of us could be in the same spot he's in and have nothing to do with anything. Just, a couple of coincidences or something. Do I think that he's innocent? No, I don't. But I just don't think that as Americans that we have given this man the fairest of a trial. And I don't want to ever be in that position where I would like a fair trial and get done like he's been done.
That's right.
Well, specifically, what treatment do you think was done wrong to Richard Allen? I mean, like, can you be specific with that?
I can, but there's a long list. I mean, from the time that he was put in prison, not jail, prison.
That's unheard of.
That's horrible. Look, I've been there. I know, and I've never seen a single person ever be put in the penitentiary before they were sentenced. Not one time.
Lawyer Lee had jumpsuit Pablo on, who also was incarcerated. He was incarcerated for 10 years for his crimes. And, when she brought that up, and everybody reacts in the same way. Nobody has ever heard of such a thing. It just doesn't happen. Prisons are for people who have been convicted of the crimes with which they are charged, and they are doing time to, however we say it, to pay back society or whatever it is. And there's a different expectation of treatment. You have been determined, it has been determined, by a judge, whether right or wrong, that you at that time are not, going to be available to be free in society because of the injuries that you have committed, in their opinion, to whatever. There's supposed to be different treatment. Jail is for lesser offenses and for holding while people await trial.
And so law enforcement said that they didn't have a facility that they felt like they could keep him safe in. Do you think that was dishonest for law enforcement to say that? Do you believe they did have a facility to keep him safe in at the county jail?
Oh, yeah, solitary confinement. They could have put him in segregation in a one-man cell.
But you're saying he's being mistreated by being put in solitary
But
confinement.
solitary confinement in a prison versus a jail is much different.
Yeah,
Okay.
prison is for convicted felons. Convicted being the key word.
I agree.
Okay, so inside of a county jail where he should have been housed, there are places like segregation and restriction. And segregation would have been a one-man cell. He would have been by himself, and the only person that could have mistreated him were the police that were working, the corrections officers. And he would have maybe had a better chance. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not there. This is solely my opinion. I mean, I'm not there.
What if the prosecution would have been able to play the videos that they wanted to play? Maybe you would see this a little bit differently, which is why I think Judge Gold made a bad decision.
Can you remind me what it is the prosecution wanted to play that they weren't allowed to?
Yeah.
Well, we don't.
I just can't remember.
Kelly, we don't know. We don't know what it was. It was video from the prison, from the couple prisons that he's been in. Okay. And he wasn't just acting up at one of the prisons; he was acting up at all three of the prisons that he was in. I know what it was. I know what it was. I can tell you about it. It just popped into my head. Okay. It was at the last prison that he was at, and it was shortly before the trial. I think it was like I believe it was shortly before the trial. Now, everything I'm saying right now, I'm saying I'm pretty sure this is how it went down. I'm not saying I know this is 100%. And he was threatening the guards, saying like, I'm going to effing kill you and stuff. And the reason that was, they found out, was because his mother and his wife had been taken off of the contact list. So there was a long period of time when he was not able to be in contact with anyone. And he was starting to slip back into that kind of like psychotic state because he has that dependent personality situation going on. And, and the trial is coming up. It's a very extremely stressful time to him. And all of a sudden, just as that's happening, as the stress is being turned up, for some reason, nobody was able to get to the root to it because it was investigated for some reason. And it wasn't because he wanted it. It wasn't because the family members wanted it. His wife and his mother, who were his lifelines, were taken off of the contact list. And that provoked him to start to go a little batshit crazy. And that is a video, and it was on video, of course, and that is a video that the judge did not allow in.
Kelly, let me tell you, I'm gonna give you an example real quick of something that is done to people that is illegal completely, but it's hard to get somebody in trouble for this because they got so much protection. But my ex-husband, he was in prison, he was in a county jail, and they beat the snot out of him. I mean, beat him to a pulp. Okay, he looked horrible. They took visitation away from him, his phone away from him until he healed. Shortly after that, and he still had some bruises, but not near as bad as what it was. So then they gave it back to him, but shortly after that, he got that MRSA, that staph infection.
Oh yeah,
stuff.
Terrible.
He had it on his whole body.
His
whole
God.
body. Yes.
It's amazing he survived.
Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible that Richard Allen could have been mistreated and Richard Allen is guilty? I mean, do the two have to be mutually exclusive?
No, that could be really absolutely correct. I mean, he could be mistreated and he could be guilty. Now, will I feel so bad if they prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is guilty? Then I might not feel as bad for him. I mean, because he's guilty and rightfully so. But until they tell me what I need to know to say that yes, he is guilty, I cannot not feel bad for this man, in a sense, or I feel bad for his family and for Abby and Libby. I mean, they deserve to have the right person
Absolutely.
in prison. They really do. And I don't mean that he's not the right person. I just mean they got to prove this. They got to show us.
Well,
And having the cameras out of the courtroom, I'm not a fan of that. I want to see this.
Me neither. But I do feel like that they did prove it. A jury of 12 people convicted him. So in my mind, that means you've been proven guilty of murder. Is that not how your thought process works?
I mean, I don't feel like that he was. I just don't feel that way. I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree with the proof of being guilty. I just don't see it.
According to our justice system, yes, if you are found to be, if the verdict is that you are guilty of murder, then you continue down that procedural line that is for those who are proven to be guilty of murder. Does it mean that it was right, or that the whole process before the jury deliberation was right? It certainly doesn't mean that. But let me just say hello to Justice A through Z and let her say hi and what's on her mind really quick too. So hey, Justice A through Z, welcome. How are you doing? Justice A through Z.
Hello.
Justice A through Z. Hey. Oh wait, let me. Okay, there you go. Hey.
I had myself muted.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Pretty good. A little exasperated, but good.
Yeah. Well, you've been busy today, being over there on the Tilted Lawyer and then your own live. Isn't this your fourth night in a row of going?
No,
live?
I didn't do anything last night. I slept a lot last night, so no. Good. So it is, but yeah, 3 out of 4. That is a lot for me. Yeah.
You've been busy. So
what do you think about all this?
I do think that I agree a lot with what everybody's been saying. I think that when somebody is framed, it's impossible to win a court case if the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And to me, it looks like he was framed. I mean, that's just my opinion. It's very, very uncomfortable, I think, as a society, for us to consider that there could be such evil in our justice system of this type of Odinism, as you guys have been calling it. And then the conspiring to set somebody up to destroy another party's life after already destroying so many lives. I live in Ohio. I live really close to an area where a fella named Dean Gillespie was arrested back in the 80s.
Yeah,
or the 90s. He was finally, by DNA, he was completely exonerated after serving something like 43 years. Or no, maybe not that long, because he's my age. So he's about like mid 50s. So I think he was about 18 when he was arrested. So if I could do math, I could tell you how many years that was. But anyway, he finally got released a few years ago. He finally won a $45 million lawsuit from the state of Ohio. But the people that framed him, the Miami Township Police Department, they knew they were framing him. They knew he was innocent. They pinned it on him. He served over 20 years. The first thing he said when he was exonerated was how devastated he was for the victims of the sexual assaults that he had been imprisoned for, because they were led to believe that they were safe and that they had justice, and they had neither. And they never got anything. The guy who put him away, that one particular detective, he never even got investigated for that. He got promoted. Wow.
So you're saying that you think that Richard Allen was framed. Can you talk to us about why you think Richard Allen was framed? I want to give you the floor to tell us why you think Richard Allen was framed.
Well, let me just say, at the beginning, I thought he was 100% the dude. I thought he was guilty. there's just too many factors, but especially the one that you guys were just talking about with having him put in prison before the verdict,
like really silenced, really pushed under. Yeah.
So if they were going to frame somebody, why wouldn't they frame Ron Logan? Why wouldn't they frame Keegan Klein?
Because he was dead.
Well, I mean, that all the more reason to frame him. There we go. Wrap it up. Clean bow. It's a done deal.
It seems to me like they kind of tried the shoe onto Keegan and it didn't quite fit. So
I think so too.
They moved on to another.
I think so too.
It's not the glove.
I don't know if he was framed, but I think that they tried to put the shoe on Keegan Klein. It does feel that way to me. I've always thought that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And are there other reasons? Are there other reasons that you think? So you're saying he was treated badly in prison, so that means that you think he was framed. What else have you got?
Well, I just don't think that that's not the way law enforcement works. You don't put somebody in prison before a trial ever. So even Gary Ridgway, the Green River
and you
killer,
have a very close relative who is a police officer, correct?
Correct. My husband is law enforcement.
Okay. I didn't know you were saying that. Okay, yeah.
I've worked in law enforcement type of court stuff out in Seattle a long time ago. And when I was doing that was when Gary Ridgway was arrested, and they couldn't keep him safe in jail before the trial. And they literally rented out this was King County. They rented out an entire office park to keep him safe.
Wow.
It was creepy AF because he was living like a king, and the lawyers that were working his case were working in that office park with him in there roaming around. I mean, it was ludicrous.
That's super weird.
but that's better than putting somebody in prison.
So if we're saying that it's wrong to put someone in prison before they're convicted, and I'm not. I don't really know. I don't know whether that county actually had facilities. According to the county jail, they didn't have the facilities for him. So
but
mean,
it has well been known to move somebody who is pre-trial to a county far away to hold them properly, so they are afforded the rights under the Constitution that they are afforded before they go to their trial. That happens frequently.
Okay, there's also prisons that house county inmates, and they have a whole separate. I mean, it's in the same building, but it's a separate area. And so things are different in that area because, like in Mississippi, George County, Mississippi is one of them. They have a prison there, but they house county inmates because they don't have a county facility. So there are things that these places are supposed to do to create a facility if one is not there. They have to separate these people because you got your convicted people and you don't want them going around shanking folks that are just in there in the county that are not even convicted yet. I mean, just saying.
Well,
I was going to ask,
can't there be a solution to the prison thing? I mean, wouldn't we be able to legislate something like that? Maybe change.org or maybe
perhaps
petition the governor
that will affect that change because this is barbaric.
Because
that's all I want from this whole entire thing is let's get justice for Abby and Libby, some good justice, and then as well as possibly learn from this, fix some mistakes, right some wrongs, and everybody come out on top, as much as we can in a situation like this. I want so badly for them to make a change. And so, definitely.
I'm just dying to know where Sub Rosa's from. Honey Bun, it sounds like you were from Mississippi.
No, I'm from the Bama.
Oh, Alabama.
Yeah.
I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Herd and cattle.
Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon.
So I live in Ohio, and being right next to Indiana's a pretty wicked place in a lot of senses. The law enforcement there in particular is some of the screwiest.
Yeah,
Well,
I
they've got
would.
big egos as well. There was a big ego
Oh
battle
yeah,
over the state of Indiana state police and the FBI. As I think Omar was talking about in the show, they just busted, they kicked the FBI off the stage altogether,
and
but
they
nobody
and they
really ever does that.
and they also blamed the FBI. They blamed the FBI for deleting the video from the gas station, where Keegan Kline Googled that gas station on like the same
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
and they blamed the FBI. No, the FBI said that they didn't do that. That's not what happened. And there was something else that they blamed the FBI for too. So I agree with you. I think that they were just I think that they were money grabbing. I think that I think that they were more concerned with Doug Carter's public appearances
Yes.
than they were with
Yeah.
solving the crime. They got a
Yeah.
tip. They got a tip on Richard Allen called in and said, "Hey, I was there at this time on that day," and then it took him 5 years.
A
Right.
volunteer found it so much
And-
later. A volunteer
And
found it.
how could it take
Gold.
them 5 years when they actually had audio tape and visual video of a suspect? How
And
on
they
earth can that take 5 years?
I've seen it put together where where different content creators have gone over the amount of money, like federal grants, state money, federal money that was poured into Delphi after this tragedy, and it's several $1,000,000. So it's interesting to me that a volunteer who's getting paid nothing is the person that
Right.
in my mind they solved the crime. And I find it interesting that that person was being paid nothing, and yet you've got millions of dollars being poured into Delphi, and a lot of that money was supposed to be earmarked for law enforcement so that they could solve this crime. And instead of solving the crime, they want to do all these guest appearances on court TV and all this nonsense. They
And
were
they
not
withheld
focused.
information from the public for so long. It was so weird how they did that. Remember, out of that 43-second video, all we got for so long was down the hill, down the hill.
Right.
Well, I think
Then we
that
got guys down the hill.
I
You
think
know?
that video was probably terrifying. So I mean, it's not really
Yeah.
something you could play on television. It's probably scare people.
Yeah.
It
Right.
scared
Well,
me
they
just a little bit that I saw, that I heard. I was like, that's creepy. I mean,
They
bless
acted like
bless
they
those
wanted the
babies' hearts.
like they wanted the public's help, like they were trying to show us that to say, hey, do you recognize this guy?
But look
But
at
they
how much
needed-
more
they
that we
needed
got.
more help. They needed so much more help. Although they didn't. If Richard Allen is the guy, they didn't, because he came to them 3 days after this happened. But because they lost that, because they just obviously needed so much more help. They were a freaking hot mess all over the place.
Disorganized.
Yeah.
And one
and
track minded.
Yeah. And then to tell the FBI go away when they have all those resources and all that manpower
Yeah.
and all that money and all those organizational skills to freaking
Well, yeah,
at least
it
keep
really
track of
makes
their
me think
tips.
that they're hiding something for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with
And
you
just to say
100%.
through Z, I am so not a conspiracy person. And a lot of times you and I disagree on things just for the fact that I'm not. But on this one, that is the only feeling I can rightfully be left with in my mind.
Well, I don't feel like I'm a conspiracy theory person.
I'm not
either.
saying that. I'm not saying that.
Well,
But
I am, but I just think it's cool. I mean, like some of the things. I'm just a weirdo. I don't know.
But
I love
just-
like the Marilyn Monroe
but
stuff, the
just saying-
JFK stuff. I get a kick out of it. But
But see,
Yeah,
that's not
I'll bite on any
theories.
conspiracy.
That's not conspiracy theories. They've recently come out and said that all that shit's true.
ooh. So yeah, I don't want to get off on a tangent. I had to leash myself. I had to connect to my charger because I was going places a second ago.
I used
I'm
to
going to be
think
pacing around.
that you could trust the system. It was when I worked in the courts in Seattle that I learned up close in real life that you cannot trust the system. And I was devastated existentially. It destroyed me. It absolutely destroyed me.
I bet.
I wanted our system to be trustworthy, and it's not. It's the furthest thing from it. It's broken. But it's all
Right.
it's all
I
we've
don't
got.
want to go up in court right now. I just don't.
It's all
Times
we've
are
got.
changing.
So what do we do to fix it? But yeah, we got to stay engaged.
Yeah.
We can't just
But-
give up.
That's right.
When
I
when
feel
what
like
does a
true
handshake
crime-
mean to y'all right now? Like what does a handshake mean to you right now? When someone shakes your hand, what's that mean to you? Not
You've
a
been trying to
gosh
give me
darn
COVID.
thing lately. You know,
means what?
lately they'll shake your hand and stab you right in the back. I mean, these
Oh.
folks, they don't care about us anymore. I mean, they're out for one thing, votes, like on re-elections and stuff like that. I mean,
Sure.
it's all about their class, their society, you know, their name, and they're not about the people, the American people, and that sucks.
Yeah, I've just seen an influx of people that have kind of just that are new to true crime that aren't really familiar with, like we're very familiar with the Watts case, and there's a lot of
The
people
what
that
case?
just aren't.
What? Huh?
The Watts case.
What case?
Well,
So we're
the Watts case is such a perfect example too, because there was some justice allegedly delivered, but that was
Yeah,
like a
there was.
Band-Aid on a broken leg, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And the leg is still broken.
no
and
no
they're-
investigation at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the leg is still broken. There's dangerous people at large, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a case here in Portland, Oregon. Kyron Horman. You guys are probably aware of Kyron Horman.
Sounds
Um,
familiar.
Yeah, it was the evil stepmother did it, and
Okay.
so Portland is Multnomah County. So twice they've impaneled a grand jury to go over whether this stepmother is guilty of murder for the disappearance of Kyron Horman, and twice a grand jury has voted to indict, and twice the district attorney, just like DA Rourke, has decided that
I'm going to be
he
right back. I have to run out to my
doesn't wanna
car for
do
a
it.
second, but I have my earbuds in. I'm going to be right back, though. I just want to let you know. Keep going.
Thanks, Kelly. So
So,
yeah,
Sub
I
Rosa,
agree with you.
You sound very well versed. Can I ask what you do for work?
Oh, I just work at a factory. I'm a true crime connoisseur, I guess.
Oh, okay, yeah, you sound like a lawyer. and what part of Portland do you live in?
Oh, I live on the outskirts of Portland, so it's like Oregon City, Canby, kind of west of Portland.
Yeah, I lived in Portland for a year back in the 90s. So
I can tell by your accent.
me
Oh, okay, that's cool.
or him?
No, or Portland, Oregon over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just I'm having trouble with the Richard Allen case because I've seen a lot of coverage of the Rick Allen case, and like, just for example, Court TV will have like their different talking heads, and so they'll have like an unbiased news reporter, like maybe maybe Lauren from Hidden True Crime. I mean, I would consider her to be unbiased. I wouldn't consider her to be pro prosecution. I would just consider her to be a reporter. She's just reporting. And then so that's supposed to be on one side, right? So she's not on one side. She's neutral. So then they've got 3 or 4 defense attorneys like Bob Mata, Andrea Burkhart, right, Lawyer Lee, and these are these talking heads, and they're not saying necessarily facts. They're giving a defense lawyer, even Omar's a defense lawyer. They're giving a defense lawyer's perspective. And so there's nobody on the other side. They're not inviting the prosecutors, from the prosecutors podcast. They're not inviting them on to give a prosecutor's opinion. So all you have is middle of the road reporters like Lauren, and then you have these people that are just wild tangents of everybody's innocent. And I don't think that that's fair. I think that it's driven a wedge in what used to be the true crime community. And the same thing with the Koberger case, the same thing with Karen Reed, and it's frustrating and disappointing to me that this is happening.
Yeah,
it's craziness. And is it Honey Bun? Is that what your handle is?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you were saying that your husband was incarcerated?
Oh yeah, my ex-husband. Well,
Okay.
I've also been incarcerated before.
Oh, you have? So
Yes.
that's a good education. Like
Yes, it makes me aware of so much more when it comes to the true crime stuff.
Right.
And I'm not saying it makes me smarter by no means.
No,
It
but
just
it does. It does. You guys have seen Christina Randall, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I like her. I watch her channel.
Right.
Yeah,
but
I stopped watching Christina when she got really into the Odinist thing, and I had to bow out. You know, I can't go
So,
with the
Rosa,
Odinist
have you
Her
thing.
seen? Have
videos are
you
like
seen the
15
crime scene?
minutes long. It's okay.
Just to say through Z, I just sent you those crime scene photos. I cannot show them on this channel. I would not show them on this channel. But have you seen the crime scene photos, Sub Rosa?
I have not.
Okay. Because I was just wondering, because just the way the branches are placed, I
Yeah,
don't know.
and you know,
if
and
you
I
can pick
heard,
those up on your phone, Justice.
I'm
yeah,
looking right now.
I heard Omar earlier talking about one of the girls was in the
Oh, what?
Hanged Man pose, which is a tarot card, and how that relates to Odinism. And I gotta call that out. That's completely off base. There is absolutely no tie between the tarot cards and Odinism or Asatru or the India.
I don't think he was saying that necessarily.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's the way I understood it.
Maybe. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
maybe.
I would.
So
I think I would. I'm a little bit of an occult scholar, and I would have to say that I know the history of the tarot in and out, forwards and back, and I have to tell you that there's no Odin in the origins of the tarot deck. It's not there. There is no correlation between Odinism or Asatru and tarot. It's just it doesn't exist.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Kelly, I have like 8 images that you tried to send, but they didn't.
Yeah,
they're
I
not
don't know. I just sent
nice.
you a message that says, "Are you getting any messages from me?" Did you get that
Right.
one?
I got the message, but yeah,
That's
my
weird. The
phone has
messages
been,
aren't transmitting. That's
my
weird.
phone's been
Oh,
a
okay.
whack today. So maybe you could
Okay.
email them.
Yeah, I'll email them to you. Okay,
Okay,
I'll do that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And were these photos leaked, or how did you come
These
across them?
were leaked photos, and the first time when they were initially leaked, a few people had sent them to me, and I didn't even open the messages. I did not want to see them. The only reason I wanted to see them today, and again, my friend Rachel, who was in chat earlier, unless she's still in chat now, is she's a super researcher. She was able to find them. I was not able to find them because I was particularly interested in seeing what the configuration of the branches on the girls looked like, since there was so much talk about that, and they are certainly hard to look at photos, but to me, the branches on the girls, guys, they are intentionally placed for some reason.
They're not trying to hide a body.
And they're not trying to hide a body. And I'm emailing them to myself right now so I can send them to you just to say through Z.
Okay, and I was just sending you my email address on the private chat to make sure you had it.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Okay, so you think that the sticks that were placed on the bodies were intentional?
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
You've
and I
seen
have
them, right, Honey Bun?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I
Yeah.
saw them when they got leaked the first time.
Okay.
I have copies of them though.
So, Rosa, have you seen them?
Oh, I have not seen them. No, I haven't seen them. I'm not sure if I want to see them, but I'm willing to.
Well, I mean,
it
it is horrible. It is horrible, but it
Yeah.
is obvious that it's not. The sticks are not trying to hide anything.
No, they're not.
And
no one could make that argument.
And
No.
do you think it's a leap of logic to go from sticks placed on a body to Celtic runes? Do you think that's a leap of logic?
I do. But then
Yeah, but
and I'm
crazier
not saying
things have
I believe in
happened.
Odinism, right?
Right.
But then you also have the patches on the guards' uniforms, which is so super weird. There's a number of other things that just makes it really weird. That makes, I think, a rational, reasonable person question.
But I mean,
things.
if there were a precedent of and when we're talking about Odinism, we're talking about a prison gang. That's what Odinism is. When we
White
talk about
supremacists, yeah.
Yeah, that's the majority of people that would call themselves Odinists. When we talk about Asatru, that would be more like the worship of Celtic, like the Old Norse gods and stuff. So like there is a big difference. I don't see any precedent for any Asatru people committing any murders, committing any I don't see any precedent for Odinists committing any murders, and if they're a white supremacy gang and they're going to commit a murder, would it be white people? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I really don't know. You know, I read the grueling, super long, filing that the defense put in about Odinism. Some of it I went, oh my God, and some of it I went, oh my God, are you freaking serious? You know, I do think that it is legitimate in a freaking, double homicide trial. I think there's enough connection that should have been brought in. Third party culpability is a defense in the United States. It simply is.
But you have to provide some evidence, and they were given the opportunity to provide that evidence, and they failed to do so.
According to Judge Gall.
That's fair. That's fair.
Being a prison gang, though, I would lean more towards that those type of people would not harm children.
Right. Yeah. Because usually the people
but I
in
mean,
prison
I'm just
that targeted are the people that have
right. Most people in
children.
prison look down on people that mess with children. So that
I don't believe that there are no ritual murders. We talk about the Watts case all the time, and I think that was a ritual murder. I think that she stalked that family, and I think that this spiritual advisor of hers is from the OTO. It's the Ordo Templis Orientis, which is Crowley magic. Maybe it's black magic. And I know for a fact that these people do some really weird things. So if we're going to talk about weird religions doing weird things, I would almost expect that. I would say, okay, if you told me that there are people doing black magic and they might be responsible for committing a murder, I'd say, yeah, okay, sure, because there is some precedent for that, but I just don't feel like there's any precedent for a racist white prison gang to be killing two white girls. It's just that, to me, it's a leap of logic.
To speak to that intelligently, I would have to read that document again, and I'm probably not going to ever do it.
It's a sacrifice.
Yeah,
it's just the sacrifice. So I just saw the photographs. Is it just two of them?
Yeah, I just sent you the two. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just oh my goodness.
I know. What do you think about the placement of the branches?
Well, I just got to say, like, I just wanted to vomit and cry.
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I wanted to see them. I wanted to see them. It's just unreal that anybody would do anything like that for any reason under the freaking sun. And you're never going to make sense of the crazy. You're never going to make sense of the crazy.
But what do you think about the branches on them? What do you think about, is that trying to cover bodies?
Not even.
No, not at all.
No, they're not. They're actually they're very exposed.
Very. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And so one of the confessions that Rick Allen gave was that a white van came down the driveway, and he stopped in the middle of what he was doing. He got spooked, and so he stopped placing branches on the bodies. So do you think that's possible?
What I thought he said about the white van, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I thought he said about the white van was it was in his intention that he was going to R-word the girls. And when he saw the white van, he got spooked. So he changed his plans, and instead of R-ing them, he murdered them.
Okay. Yeah, I could be wrong about that.
I'm pretty sure that's what was said. Let me see if I can find it somewhere.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak my point of view here.
Of course. I don't want you to ever feel like your opinion isn't wanted. When I read that, I was like, oh, stop, Rosa. How wrong you are about that.
I think you felt like you were being attacked, but it was definitely not like that. And I do respect everything that you have to say. And I think that you were taking it the wrong way completely, because we all do value you. You are awesome.
We were absolutely. And we were Omar and I came into it. We've been talking about this all day. I know, feeling very passionate about it, I guess, which wasn't clear. And, I still think it's possible that Alan's guilty. I still think it's possible that he's not. I just don't freaking know, because I don't have enough information to know. But the thing that I think he and I agree we were most passionate about was the issues of justice that we see, going down, or injustice in this trial proceedings. That's what I'm most upset about. And it's for the sake of all of us.
I understand.
So I don't want you to feel attacked. You know I love you. I'm always happy
Oh
to
no,
see you.
I love you guys too. Yeah, I know I don't feel attacked, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak my side of things. You know,
Yeah.
I think that if you're going to look at evidence, and you're on the fence about whether you think Richard Allen is bridge guy, whether you think Richard Allen is the killer, I think that the best evidence that I've seen for his guilt is Gray Hughes Investigates. Has a video where he does a timeline and he shows very precisely, here's Rick Allen's car driving down the street. Here's the
I saw
witnesses that saw bridge guy. Here's the other
Yeah.
witnesses that saw bridge guy. And he's got a Google Maps where he lays it out. And, Gray Hughes is a lot more articulate than I am, but he makes a really good case,
I
so I
don't think
if
he is, but
I gotta
okay.
say, I lost all respect for Gray Hughes with the Kylie Rodney fake video or whatever you want to call it, the video.
Ooh, I haven't heard about that.
Oh.
I've
yeah,
been
that
going down
Kylie
other
Rodney was
things.
a wild,
Well,
situation.
he not only floated what I think was bogus, and I think he knew it was bogus. He also is extremely condescending to everybody, that if they didn't believe him, everybody was just too stupid, and he had no time to talk to any of them.
Well, that's how
Yeah,
he
he's
always
the
is.
same way
Yeah.
with
He's always like that.
with
That's Gray
Jen
Hughes.
Soto. He's
Yeah.
he says,
Yeah.
Jen Soto's completely innocent. She's done absolutely nothing
Oh
wrong.
my God.
I think a 5-year-old could look at the videos and say, okay, well, she most certainly did do something wrong.
Why does he have such an agenda is what I want to know. It's like that's what's bizarre. It's like we're all out here just trying to find the truth.
Right.
It seems like he's very invested in his opinion being the truth when
He has a frail ego.
Yeah.
There you go. That's it.
Sorry, Gray.
Yeah, he's from Portland too, I believe.
Right, he is from Portland. Yeah, I figured that out when I first came across his work.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of content creators who think that Richard Allen is guilty, and so I'm guilty of listening to the prosecution side. So I've been listening to the murder sheet. I've been listening to the prosecutors, and I think that they provide a really good case. I think that a lot of the points that they're making is if he was treated badly in prison, that doesn't change. That doesn't change. And Gray's kind of a jerk, but that doesn't change. His timeline is still it's very interesting and very damning. And so no matter how Richard Allen was treated in prison, it's irrelevant to the timeline and the Google Maps that Gray Hughes has laid down. And so I think if you have questions in your mind about whether you think he's guilty, if you want to hear from my perspective or from the guilty perspective, I think that would be a good place to start.
Yeah, I do
appreciate
think
that.
that
I did listen to some of those.
Yeah, I just believe, like, when you confess so many times and stuff, he was confessing as a broken man.
Stay on. Everyone stay on after apparently restart my computer. Stay on though.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, and I think he could be convicted and found guilty without the confessions. I think he could be convicted and found guilty without the bullet. I think he could be guilty and found guilty without the confessions. So to me, I don't think that those are extremely relevant. And again, I'll just go back to that Google Map timeline. That doesn't change, what Gray Hughes laid out. And the confessions, take them or leave them. I mean, I think even if they wouldn't have been allowed in court, I still think he's guilty.
Now, I want to read to you. I just found an article that talks about why he was spooked by the white van, so I just want to bring that in. It seems like when I'm bringing stuff in tonight, I don't know what the hell's happening, but let's try to do this. So it says, Alan told Walla, that's a psychologist, that he was a recovering alcoholic, but he drank 3 beers on February 13th, 2017, before heading to the trails. He confessed to following the girls onto the bridge and messed with his gun, which he speculated might have led to the round being found at the scene. But messing with the gun on the bridge is different than where it was found. But anyway, that's a whole different issue. Alan told Walla his intention was to R the girls, but said he was spooked by a van that made the girls cross the creek before doing what he did to them. So that is where the white van comes in.
The trouble with Walla is, though, that I'm sure that you're just as aware as I am about her story.
I don't think she should have been allowed to testify.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. They say she got fired. She didn't actually get fired. She got moved from one job to a different job, so she didn't actually get fired. But yeah, she was going into the computer system and looking up Keegan Kline when she didn't have permission to do that. She's not supposed to be just getting into people's files like that. She was telling Richard Allen to stop confessing because he has supporters. So I can't place a lot of
stock in what she says.
Faith in what Dr. Wallace says. And I don't really have any faith in what Rosie and Baldwin have to say either, because after the 136 page manifesto of theirs, this Odinist thing, I don't feel like I don't feel like they backed up any of what they were saying. I think they're just throwing stuff at the wall. And I don't understand why they didn't, instead of trying to prove Odinism, which is just so many leaps of logic, I don't understand why they wouldn't try and use Keegan Kline as a third party,
I think
defense.
Keegan Kline made a deal with the devil and with law enforcement and the prosecution.
Yeah, I agree that day that they took Keegan Kline to the Air Force base and he was telling stories. Yeah,
exactly.
And the Wabash River search was a direct result of that conversation with Keegan Kline. So
exactly.
So I mean, I haven't ruled out the possibility in my mind that Keegan Kline and maybe even Tony Kline are also involved. In my mind, it doesn't have to only be Richard Allen. I'm trying to keep my mind open to the different possibilities. I do believe there could have been other people involved.
Yeah. So, well, thank you guys so much for coming up. I am going to wrap up because we're at 2 hours now and I've got to go to work in the morning. But I do want you to know that I do very much, as you now I hope know, Sub Rosa, appreciate all of your perspectives. And, even if they disagree with mine or guests up here, I just always ask, just like always, that we all remain respectful and listen to one another, because that's really what it's all about. Right. So,
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I really appreciate you've done some really great shows the last few days, and I appreciate you spending all this time with us.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you too.
You're so sweet, Sub.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, so are you, honey bun?
Oh, sorry, I had to go get some vape juice, and I was like, "Look, this is not okay." I'm going through my house like a crazy person. I didn't want anybody to get sick.
No. I understand too. I like vaping as well. I get it.
Yeah, it's crazy though, because like when I'm panicking about the vape juice, I'm like, yeah. So I look like a crazy person.
It's what you got to do. Yep, I got
Yeah, definitely. I love all y'all. Too. I'm gone. See y'all later.
Thanks for coming up, sweetheart.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop down too. Thanks for having me. Lovely to meet you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly. I hope that you have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you for coming up. I appreciate it. And sorry about those crime scene photos, Justice A through Z. I hope they're not. I know they are disturbing. I was upset when I saw them too. Yeah, definitely hard to see. So, well, thank you guys so much for being here. And again, we really do want this channel to be a place where people can express how they feel, as long as we're being respectful of the victims or family members and one another. That's always all good. I know that, doing a live stream just on the day that a verdict comes out, people haven't fully digested it. Like I said, I had a very emotional reaction to it. I just started weeping. I was not expecting that at all. I really thought it was going to be a hung jury. I knew it was possible. It could be either. I thought about those possibilities, but it did really affect me emotionally. And honest to God, the first people I thought about were Abby and Libby's family. And, how this could turn. I thought about all of the appellate issues that I know exist because of the way things went down and the way that could affect them when they are finally breathing this exhale of relief that, this is all over and they can just kind of move on with their lives. Only to find out, hopefully somebody has warned them about the possibility of the appellate issues again, or maybe they probably just know, but that it is such a very, very, very real issue with this case. And I hope that they are prepared and they all have the support they need, because they did not deserve to continue to go through this hell on earth that they've been going through since the day when they lost their babies. So, what we always do want here on this channel is justice. And, I pray that that I don't, it hasn't been found, in my opinion, because the case wasn't proven, in my opinion. So I pray that we do arrive at a more solid place of justice in this case for you, for me, and for the victims' families. And thank you so much for being here. Moderators, thank you so much for everything you do. Subs, members, thank you so much. And people just checking us out, make sure you go check out The Tilted Lawyer as well. I really appreciate Omar and everything he had to say, as well as his expertise. So go check him out as well. So I'll be doing some live streams in this week ahead. So be looking out for those. And do check out the video if you aren't sure about everything that happened in the case. Whoops. Sorry. I'm trying to get back to my main page here so I can get oops, you might hear some music in the background for a second. Check out the day by day. Just find it. I just posted it a couple days. The day by day play by play, day by day video I made about every single day of the trial and the important things were covered on that day. And I promise you, all of the details were covered. I made sure of it. So love y'all. I appreciate all of you. Remember, life is hard, so please be good to each other and be good to yourself because you deserve it. All right. See you guys soon. Bye.